Hello, my name is Ronnie, and I would like to tell you about a time. It's been a number of years back when an angel came by my house, and this was in the year 1999. It was in the fall of 1999, before the turn of the century, when it was going to turn 2000, and so I got off of work one day and I went to bed pretty early, a lot earlier than what I normally go to sleep. And so when I went to sleep, I got all my rest, and I woke up too early, like 3 in the morning. And I was thinking, I got all my sleep, and what am I going to do now? And so I thought, well, I'll read my Bible for a little while, and then I'll go back to sleep, and then I'll wake up when I'm supposed to and go to work. So I did that. I started reading my Bible, and I was reading for a little while, maybe an hour, and I started nodding off. I started falling asleep. And so I wanted to get to the end of the chapter. So I shake myself, and I told myself I want to keep going until I get to the end of the chapter. So I shook off the sleep, and I kept reading. And and as I did that, I was awake. All of a sudden, the front wall of the house disappeared. Well, my bedroom, where I am, where my bedroom was, the front wall was to the front of the house, where the front yard, the driveway, the street, everything's in the front of the house. And so that's where my room was, and that wall, it disappeared, and it was invisible. And I could see everything outside. I could see the yard, the cars, the driveway, everything. And all of a sudden, an angel came down like a V, and it stopped at the end of the driveway, close to the street, which wasn't far, maybe 40 feet. And it stopped in the middle of the air, like 8 foot off the ground, and it was a man, and he had blonde hair with the wings. He was an angel. And he stopped in the air, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he yelled out at me. He said, "Hadash!" And then he took off. He came down and he went up like a V. And he gave me that message, and it was just that fast. And I knew that was an angel. I knew that was a message from God. And somehow I knew it was Hebrew, because at the time I was working at a body shop, and it was in the Jewish community, and there was a lot of customers at the shop that I was working, and I would always hear them speak Hebrew. So I knew what it sounded like. I didn't know what they were saying, but I knew the language. So I knew the word Hadash was Hebrew, but I didn't know what it meant. So I figured it was a message that the angel wanted me and whoever he was telling to know, whatever the message was. So I got down on my knees, and I thank God for letting me see an angel, and for whatever this message was, he was going to let us know. And so I said, I know you'll let us know. You'll let me know, and whoever else you're getting this message to, because I got the impression that this angel was going around the world telling, I guess, people that were going to be able to, it was be awake and tell them the message, believers, and for whatever the purpose was. That angel was going around the world giving this message to different people. And so I was very excited, and I said, well, let me just go ahead and go to sleep, and I'll wake up and I'll go to work. And my boss was Hebrew. He was Jewish. He was born and raised in Israel, and I knew he would know what this word meant. So I went to sleep, woke up, went to work, but he doesn't come in early. He would come in later, 10:30, 11. So I was just waiting for him to come to work. I was working. But the customers in that area it was a Jewish area, and a lot of his regulars were Jewish. And so this one came, brought his car, and he wanted the mechanic to look at it. And so I saw him, and I knew he was one of the regulars, and that he was Jewish. He had a strong accent. And so I went up to him and I asked him, were you born in Israel? He said yes. And I said, well, I would like to know, can you tell me what this word means? And I told him, Hadash, what does that word mean? Is that Hebrew? He said, oh yeah, that's Hebrew. Where did you hear that word? And I said, I heard somebody say it, and I wanted to know what it meant. And he said, well, it's a strange word. You don't hear it much. It's an archaic word, and it's from the Bible. And it means something like new moon, new day, new beginnings, something like that. And I said, okay, well, thank you. And so then after a while, the boss came in, and I went to him, and I asked him. I said, Simo, I heard this word, and I'd like to know what it means. And it's the word Hadash. And he said, where did you hear this word? And I said, I heard it in my neighborhood, and somebody was going by. He said, you couldn't have heard that word in your neighborhood. That's Hebrew, and it's an ancient word. And I know where you live. You live in the Hispanic community. And I said, could you just tell me what does this word mean? He said, okay, well, it's kind of strange. You don't hear it anymore, but it's from the Bible. And you know, he almost said the same thing the other man said. He said it means something like new moon, new day, new beginnings, something like that. He said it's an ancient word. And I said, okay, all right, thank you, appreciate it. And so in just a little while, this friend of mine named Russ, he called me on the company line, and they called me and they said, you got a phone call. So I went and got it. And back then there was hardly any cell phones. And so when I got on the phone, I said, hey Russ, how's it going? And he was gonna, whatever he was calling me for, I said, whatever you're calling me for, can you just don't forget what you're gonna tell me, but let me tell you what happened. And I told him about the angel that had come by and said, Hadash. And he said, well, maybe that's the reason I'm calling. Maybe it has something to do with what I'm calling. And I said, what are you calling for? And he said, well, I was going to invite you and see if you wanted to go to this Hebraic Roots of Christianity. It's going to be a 3-day Bible study. And that day happened to be a Friday. So he said, but the only thing is that it's starting at 4 p.m. And we would have to be there at 4. And then they're going to be on tomorrow, Saturday, and then Sunday. And I said, okay, no problem. I'll get off early. And so we went. So we started, got registered, and we, the Bible study started. And about 7 p.m., the teacher stopped for people to go for a break, to get up and stretch and go drink water, whatever. And so people stood in line and to go say hello and shake his hand, and I did too. And so when I got up to him and I said, thank you for this, and I'd like to ask you if you know the meaning of this word, Hadash. I heard somebody say it, and I'd like to know what it means. And he said, I didn't tell him the whole story because there was a long line of people, and I just wanted to know what the meaning of the word was. And he said, are you going to be here tomorrow? And I said, I can. And he said, well, come tomorrow, and tomorrow I'm going to be teaching on that very word somewhere in the day, in the middle of the day. And I said, okay, I'll come. So the next day I came, and we started in the morning. The Bible study went on. We went to lunch, came back, and then about 2 o'clock, we were in a church, in like a medium-sized church, and it was like half full. And the teacher was up there, and he stopped and he said, okay, there was somebody yesterday that asked me about this word Hadash. Are you here? And I stood up and waved my hand and I said, I'm here. He said, okay, well, perk up your ears because we're going to start the part of the study that talks about this word Hadash, and you're going to get your answer. And I said, okay, thank you. And I sat down, and he went into the study. And to make a long story short, the study revealed that in those ancient days when there was the way that they did it, because they didn't have satellite positioning and so forth that we have today, that they would send out 4 or 6 men in opposite directions. Nobody knew who anybody else was. It was highly secretive. And when they would all come back to a designated place, and at least 4 of them, and declared that they had seen the new crescent moon, they would declare it a new moon, a new day, a new year. And sometimes if it was a Jubilee time, it would be like a new season, a new era. And so that's what the word Hadash meant, like a new beginning. And so that's what depending on if it was a Jubilee year, 50-year cycle, or just a 7-year cycle. So it would depend on that. But if it was a Jubilee, then that would be a new era, a new beginning. And so I went away with that. And then, in the studies and so forth, it was also paralleled to when God says in the book of Revelations that at the last trumpet, which I believe was the 7th trumpet, that God at that last trumpet, he would tell the angel to blow the horn, the trumpet, and that was at the Feast of Trumpets. And then at that time, Jesus would come back and do the rapture. They called it the snatching away in the Bible. And so that was all in there. And so, to parallel with what the Jews would normally do on the Feast of Trumpets. So I walked away with all of that and understood that the angel was saying, he was like a forerunner, and he was saying Hadash, that a new beginnings was about to begin, but not right away. It was still going to be a little bit, because they come and they give the news ahead of time, and it could have been, it felt like even up to 40 years before this would actually start happening. So I was paying attention over over many years. 2005, nothing. 2007, 10, 15, 17, no. 20, no. But when 25 came around, it felt like God was saying, now the Hadash has come, and it's going to begin. The new beginning, the Hadash, the new day. And so I never forgot that angel, and I know a lot of people that, because that angel went around the world telling certain other believers, new beginning, new day is coming. And so I heard a little bit, but I haven't heard too many that have seen this messenger angel and give this message. If anybody else hears of somebody who saw that angel and got the message also, I would like to hear about it. But I did see this angel. When you see an angel, you don't forget it. So God gave us this message, and I was gathering. He wanted people to know. That's why he came giving it. So I'm saying my part. That's what I saw. And if God said he was going to do the rapture, the snatching away, he's going to keep his word. So that's it. I believe in Jesus, and that he is the Savior, the Messiah, and that God is going to do what he said he's going to do. Like when Jesus died, and Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to take incense, spices, and the grave was open on the third day. And Jesus wasn't there. And an angel appeared to them and asked them, "Who are you looking for?" And they said, "Jesus." And he said, "He's not here. He is risen, just as he said he was going to be." So God is going to keep his word. He said he's going to prepare a place for us, that where he is, we may be also. He's going to keep his word, and he said he is going to come back and get us. So I'm believing, and I hope you believe too. God bless you. Thank you.